Hello, class. Welcome to the first asynchronous content for communication design theory, COMD 3504, section OL69, spring 2022. I hope you're in the right room. I'm Professor Matthew Lang, but if you've already watched my intro video, you should know that I prefer to just be called Matt. Please call me Matt. My pronouns are he, him. You can expect me to be sitting in this room or somewhere similar every week, and you should be looking out for videos like this every week for the rest of the semester. I wanted to start by telling you that this is my first time ever doing a fully asynchronous class. I've taught communication design theory many times over the past few years. I've taught in person, I've taught online, I've done courses that are sort of like half asynchronous and half synchronous, where I record lectures like this, but then we have a weekly meeting time. But to be fully asynchronous is something that I've never done before. It's something that's relatively new. I know this course has only been offered once as fully asynchronous before this semester. Maybe some of you have more experience than I do, or maybe it's the first time for all of us. Either way, I think it's going to be a really interesting semester. I think there's a lot that we have to explore here. There are so many online tools, not just for learning, but for professional experiences. I think there's ways to socialize that extend well beyond the sort of the category of traditional social media. And while there might be some sort of like hiccups and there might be a little bit of a learning curve to get used to all of this, I really do think that we can understand the media that's available to us, and we can use this as an opportunity to explore different ways to communicate, explore all of the sort of available tools and become more proficient in some of these new methods for interacting that are out there. So I hope it's going to be a really positive experience for everyone to that end. And we'll certainly have ways to kind of touch base throughout the semester. For now, I just want to take you through the syllabus for the course. I'm also going to post a quick introduction for OpenLab. I know many of you are accustomed to it, but I just want to kind of make sure you know the specifics of our website. And then I'll also give you links to some tutorials that are available online for some of the other resources that we will use. And you should have seen that we're going to do introductions as well. So that part will be on you. But without further ado, I'm going to take us to our OpenLab site, which I have open here. And you should have seen this. I sent a link to join. I hope everyone has been able to access this site. Our homepage currently has a welcome message, and then our syllabus is posted, and there's much more coming soon. But for right now, we're just going to look at the syllabus. So we're a step ahead. I just told you what the course is. I should also note that this is 3 class hours, 3 credit hours. This means that there's classroom time amounting to 3 hours. I'm never going to record a 3-hour video and make you watch that, okay? That's just not cool. That's too much video. That's too much to ask you to commit to. I'm gonna try to keep things like half an hour, at most 45 minutes. That's generally going to be the scope of what I tell you. And then we're going to discuss. Sometimes that will happen in a comment section on a page. Sometimes I may ask you to record videos or audios that respond to the week's topics. We'll try a whole different range of things. So we will have 3 hours, or really it's like 2.5, I guess, when we're in an actual meeting. And then homework will be on top of that, okay? For a 3 credit hour course, the standard allotment is up to 6 hours of homework. I think if you're efficient with what we work on, it shouldn't take you that long most weeks, but just know that that's what the accreditation board asks for a 3 credit hour course. And that hopefully gives you some expectations of what we're working on in this class. You should have taken this English class and this art history class. I have no way of telling if you did, so I hope you did. And I've already told you who I am. My office hours will be Wednesdays from 5 to 7, but I know that we are all going to be on different schedules. I would really like to make sure we have ample time to meet, to talk, throughout the semester. So I'm going to be very flexible with my office hours. We can kind of get a sense in these first few weeks of when people will be available. And I think we can schedule times. I'll make sure that I have many more options for you. That's just a kind of starting point, and then we can work from there. Okay. And we can expect to meet through my personal meeting room in Zoom. I've given you the link to that. I'll also be on campus sometimes during that time on Wednesdays from 5 to 7. I'm doing a hybrid section of this course on Wednesdays. So there's a possibility that we might be able to meet in person if you'll be there for other courses. So we can keep that in mind as another option. Now for the course description. Here's what we're really going to do. This course will offer an in-depth introduction to communication design theory, examining theoretical perspectives of design practice within the larger discourse of design and visual culture. Communication models, the nature of representation, the dimensions of context, and semiotics will be explored through critical readings from key documents written between the early decades of the 20th century and the present. That sounds like a lot. At the end of week 15, it should all be very clear to you. Okay, so we look at some things like communication models that can be visual, but it can also be verbal. It can be about spoken language, and we'll understand how images and sounds and ideas all interact with one another. And the nature of representation is more specific to how we create graphic pictures of different ideas, right? How we put them down onto paper. The dimensions of context is referring to the idea that the meaning of a design or an image can change over time, and the place and the time in which it's presented can shape the meaning of something. Semiotics is the study of symbols and signs. This is really important when we work in a field that relies on quick graphic representations that people can immediately understand. So we'll get into some writers who are semioticians and semiologists. Again, it might sound a little daunting, but we will cross that bridge when we come to it, and it'll be really interesting. And again, we start about 100 years ago, and we'll end up somewhere around the present with all of our readings. It's not a historical survey. We're not doing this to look at the art history of things. We're looking at an evolving set of ideas, and we should approach it from that perspective. We should know that all of the ideas that we encounter are still somehow in use. And that's why they're really important for us. Okay, there is a required text. It is called Graphic Design Theory, Readings from the Field. This is what it looks like. It's a great little collection of some of the most important essays on graphic design. This is communication design theory, so we don't stick exactly to this book, but at least half of our readings are from this. The retail price is $24.95. You can usually find it for less expensive. There's usually used copies. Abe Books is a website from which you can find many used copies. The behemoth online retailer, who I don't necessarily support, but from which you can order it, is Amazon, obviously. And usually the Strand on Broadway and 12th Street usually has copies at a discounted price from $15 to $20. It's a great book to have. Again, the cost is relatively low for what it is. And it is also available through the City Tech Library. So you need to use your login credentials or be on campus, but you can access ebook versions of all of the chapters from this book, of all of the essays. And I will also post PDFs every week. So again, you don't need to rush out and buy this, but if you want a great book on your shelf, I do recommend it. We have also built out a set of open educational resources, which is referred to as the OER. The OER provides students with a growing selection of contemporary and historical media to support research. We can also submit openly. If you find a really great article, you can add to the OER. I'm going to be adding a good deal more to it this semester, and you're welcome to do so. And this is kind of an expanding resource specific to this class. So you'll find links to that on our Open Lab page, and know that that's another great tool for media, and sometimes we'll pull readings from there as well. As stated, we will rely primarily on this Open Lab course site. It's critical that you join the course. You have to join the course to submit any responses for the class. So please, if you haven't already, make sure you become a member of this course. The fact that I've given you the URL on the website is totally backwards and useless to you. I apologize for that. If you're watching this, you have found the Open Lab site. So thank you. And here it is if you ever get lost or forget where you are. We will also use a whole sort of slew of online communication tools. So I'm recording this using Zoom right now. I'm saving the video onto my desktop, but I'm going to upload it to YouTube and give you a link to that YouTube video. We all may have slightly different workflows, but expect that you're going to have to do something along those lines. You can upload a lot of things onto Open Lab, but videos are too large. So having an account with YouTube or Vimeo or someplace where you can upload and share videos will be really important. We can also use Google Docs. Hypothesis is a very cool platform that is actually a plugin for Chrome, for Google Chrome, which allows us to create shared notes for the readings. I'm going to send an invitation to everyone to join a group on Hypothesis. I have not sent that yet. If you've looked for it, I apologize, it's not there yet, but you'll see that in the coming days, okay? You really also need to make sure we have email communications available. Make sure that I can reach you and that you can reach me. Again, my email address is at the top of this page. You should have seen at least one email from me so far. Please make sure we have a good open line of communication available through email. You should be using your CityTech email. You probably have to know the credentials for that to get onto Open Lab, which is, again, really critical. So just make sure that we're set up there. Weekly readings will serve as the central axis on which this course revolves. Completing every reading will be necessary in order to successfully complete the course. These readings will be accompanied by weekly written responses posted to our Open Lab site, 2 short papers, and classroom discussions. You will supplement these readings with independent research, culminating in a research poster project. All of this is going to be expanded upon in a minute, but the first thing you need to know is you will be reading every week. That's a big piece of that 6 hours outside of class materials that I mentioned. My lectures, presentations will never be a substitute for the readings, and I'll be sure to not just repeat what's in a text. Sometimes I'll sort of pick on key points and talk about why they're so significant, but I'm not just going to walk through and summarize the reading. So it's going to be really important that you've done the reading and you have some framework, some baseline for what we're talking about in the lecture and in the discussions that will follow. And understanding these ideas in a firsthand kind of way, I think, is really important. We take great lengths to look at some of the greatest designers ever and to see, the words that came out of their mouth or from their pen. And I think it's really important to see that. I can summarize it for you, but I'm not one of the great designers ever. Go back to what they said, and then we can talk about it and create the discussion from those materials. So readings are really important. Each weekly reading post will include a set of questions or prompts intended to promote critical engagement with that text. You'll be expected to write 3 to 4 paragraphs reflecting on the text in question. Responses can be handwritten or typed on a separate page as long as they're uploaded as a new post on our Open Lab site. Posts should be submitted before the last day of the week in which they're due. Again, we'll get into this more at the end. We're on sort of like a Monday through Sunday schedule. That means you should always be posting by Sunday evening. And you can post in any number of ways. You can attach a document. Again, I think there's something really great. I have pages of scribbled writing all over the place. And if I want to handwrite that, take a snapshot and upload it with my response, you can do that as well. Okay, that's totally fine to do as long as I can read it. Okay, the idea is that your responses should be personal, they should be a means of engaging with the text, and you can also use it to express personal opinions or questions. If you're reading it and saying like, what is this? Don't try to pretend like you fully understand it in your response, okay? Please have some structure, but I'm not going to nitpick over grammar for these. I want to know your sort of personal thoughts and responses to what we read each week. There will be a couple responses that are more formal, in which I will ask you to follow certain guidelines, okay? But for the normal weekly responses, it's very informal. The idea is to write 3 to 4 paragraphs. If you're using word check, something along the lines of 400 words is a great benchmark. That's plenty to write about. And that's just kind of a means of processing what you've read. The response papers are a little bit more formal. Twice during the semester, they'll be due week 6 and week 11. You'll be required to submit papers that are 2 to 3 pages, 750 to 1,000 words. It's like double what you would do in a normal week as your weekly response. There will not be a regular weekly response those weeks. It's just the sort of bigger, more formal paper. These should be formally structured, and they'll concern the assigned readings plus some additional individual research. You should submit these papers as PDFs. They will not be accepted if they're just typed into the post for an open lab. They should be double spaced, 12-point Times New Roman. I'm also going to check the word count. So if you give me like 16-point Arial, you're not fooling anyone, okay? So it's like really the word count that kind of matters. If it's 12-point Times New Roman, 750 to 1,000 words is 2 to 3 pages. And you should include reference and quotations in those writings. You do not need to have any kind of bibliographic information in most regular weekly posts. And again, those will be done instead of your weekly response. You should also be doing independent research. This offers you opportunities to apply the critical discourse from our readings to your own individual concerns. You should be researching additional designers and critics, examining contemporary design, exploring scholarly articles from the OER, and the library's holdings throughout the entire semester. As the semester progresses, you'll be asked to submit research in progress along with your weekly posts. This does not always have to be formal. You know, you're probably sitting in another class, maybe it's packaging design, and you see some work that's really cool. Write down the name of the firm that created it. Take note of the interesting designs you see. If you're flipping through a magazine and you see a really great, well-designed ad, tear it out, put it in a notebook, keep those things with you. And especially if we're reading an article and you see a sign on the subway that reminds you of the article, snap a picture of it. This is all additional research, and it can be really important for sort of applying our readings to your day-to-day life and practice. The semester essentially culminates in a presentation and a virtual poster session. So the final 3 weeks of class will be conducted as these virtual poster sessions, in which you and your peers will present independent research using visual aids. You'll be expected to articulate a clearly defined topic concerning contemporary design and theory by way of a well-designed poster or slide deck. This endeavor should serve as an opportunity to connect one's own design practice with professional research methodologies. In addition to completed presentations, you'll be expected to submit an annotated bibliography and outline, and you'll also be required to watch everyone else's presentations. Details will be distributed during the week 6 class lecture or the week of week 6, and topics will be discussed, presented, talked about in week 8, or at least started to be. The idea is when you go to an academic conference, there's usually a keynote speaker who's the big name that everyone's come to see, right? And that's sort of the event that everybody remembers. And they essentially give a TED talk to a big audience. But at most academic conferences, you also have these smaller groups that are concerned with specific topics. And you can go down, the list of events for the weeks, and you see all these different poster sessions where somebody's maybe working on a project or researching a certain subject, and they present their work in progress. A traditional poster session has kind of like a big poster board, usually with like 9 or 10 PowerPoint slides printed out, and they'll stand there and present this topic for a dozen people, right? So we're going to replicate that, and we'll do it by recording our presentations and then sharing them. Again, there's going to be a lot more on that in the coming weeks, especially as we get towards the middle of the semester. I think it can be a really interesting, fun project. I've seen some great results from it. So I think it's a great way to end the semester, and I think you're going to enjoy doing it. Okay. Discussions of assigned readings will play a critical role in this course. Class conversations, whether face-to-face or asynchronous, should not only provide a better understanding of the readings, but should also make the course more engaging for everyone. I have my thoughts and opinions on these readings. They're probably slightly different from yours. I want to hear from you. We all want to hear from you. That's the real core of this class. All of these readings create a discussion amongst us. I've read them plenty of times. I don't need to read them for my own health. Your responses are more interesting than my responses at this point. So commenting on posts, commenting on the lectures that I present about the readings, creating interesting responses every week will be really critical. And there will be some required commenting. I'll point you towards that every week. And sometimes we'll do it in a kind of dynamic kind of way. Sometimes it'll just be comments on Open Lab. Sometimes I might ask you to sit in front of a camera and give us your thoughts, or at least in front of a microphone. Okay. So again, that we will sort of work on different ways of doing that throughout the whole semester and creating this kind of dynamic conversation space, even though we won't be sitting in the same room at the same time. Okay. Now the part that everyone really cares about. Here we go. The grades, how it works. Your weekly responses are 35% of your grade. It's really critical. Do the math right there. This means you sit down, you read what you're going to read, you type 3 to 4 paragraphs and post that. If you're not doing that, the best you can do is like a D- in the class, a 65, right? You have to post those weekly responses. It's really important. That's kind of the central homework for the class, okay? Those 2 response papers, the bigger ones that happen twice during the semester, are 20% of the grade, 10 points each. You'll also see, as I start to show you your grades, as I start to give you your marks, I give everything based on points. I think that it's a very efficient way to do things. So your response papers will each be out of 10 points. If it's a great paper, 10 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10. If it's really lousy, 6 out of 10, I don't know. So you'll get your grades like that. As of right now, everybody's failing the class. You have 0 points. And as the semester progresses, those build up and build up. And halfway through, you'll probably be getting like a 50. That means you're perfect, okay? That means you're exactly where you should be. And then once everything's submitted, it culminates in these total points. Your research presentations, that last project will be 25% of your grade. And the productivity and participation, meaning how much you're commenting, how you're engaging with the classroom side of things, virtual as it may be, is 20% of your grade. So you should be posting comments every week. You should be engaged with this discussion that develops around the readings and around the weekly classroom content. Okay. Weekly classroom discussions, writing, posting comment will allow me to see your participation and see how well you comprehend the material. And again, it's not about, my job is to make sure you comprehend the material. So if you read something and you don't understand it right away, it's not like you're going to be penalized for that. If you say, I don't quite understand what this is about, can you elaborate? That form of engagement is really important and everyone benefits from it. So please, please do that. It's a gauge for me to see what you're getting out of this. And if you're not getting the right things out of it, I'm failing you as well, right? So please make sure that you're submitting those comments. We will also schedule some in-person meetings. We'll do one relatively early on, but I want to do these check-ins. I think they're going to be really important, even if we can't meet as a whole class together, having these one-on-one interactions where we can hop onto Zoom for 10, 15 minutes and just touch base, make sure you're understanding those things are also going to be critical. Okay, so again, we'll have lectures and class discussions, research-based projects, some peer-to-peer exercises, critiques, weekly use of the online forum is again really critical. And then there will be some supplemental lectures and materials that'll come along with that. And again, I'm going to sort of breeze through some of these things, posting and commenting, engage with presentations and discussions. Think about the best ways to engage, the best practices. Be prepared, check in on the class website. Don't wait till Sunday evening to see what's due. Check things off during the week. Watch the lecture early on, get the reading out of the way, make sure you're staying on top of these things. Again, asking questions, getting onto that discussion board and not being afraid to say, I didn't really sort of understand what this is about. We will read things that are difficult to read. I'm going to rely on you to tell me which parts of the reading could stand to be further clarified. Make sure you pay attention, make sure you're getting what I'm saying in these presentations, and then make sure you're sort of submitting things as stated, okay? This is a bigger expansion on some of those themes. I'm not going to go through all of this right now, but please take a look at this. This kind of gives further detail for some of the materials that I've just discussed. And this kind of gives us a little bit more about what the general, there are certain design theory takeaways from the course. There are some really important concepts that you should walk away with from the writers that we read, from the texts that we check out throughout the semester. And then there's also some very general kind of things. Hopefully you'll be a better writer when this class is over. Hopefully you should be better at reading, right? I think it's a really important point to make. This stuff is difficult to read, largely because you probably haven't read much theory, right? You might tear through a novel every week, but then when you encounter something that's a sort of theoretical text, it's written in a totally different way, right? So understand that it's going to be a little tough to read at times. Bear with it, give it a shot, and you'll find that throughout the semester you'll be better at reading and responding to those things. And it's just kind of like a general skill that I hope will be acquired throughout the course. And again, this is a writing intensive course. You'll be writing every week. I'm going to do a lot to make the writing sort of more visual at different points. And I think it's really important that the appearance of what you write or what you think or what you talk about is a piece of your submission, is a piece of how you're doing the writing. But ultimately, the ability to write about design is the core focus of this class. And again, you should be getting better at it throughout the semester. That's really our ultimate aim. Attendance is taken for every class. Obviously, you can't be late for this class. There's no 15 minutes late. But if you're not engaging in the asynchronous content, then you're essentially absent, okay? So watching the lecture, if you do not comment on a lecture, you will be marked absent, okay? These different ways to engage, if you're sort of radio silence, you are absent, okay? So again, you watch everything at your own leisure, you engage whenever it's convenient for you throughout the week. But if you disappear, I can track views for my video, so I know how many people watch it. If 20 people aren't watching it, then there's a problem, right? So make sure you're engaging with this. Make sure you stay on top of it. You will have to do some self-guidance in this respect. It's up to you to do some of these things. I won't be we don't have that one time, set a time for yourself, okay? It's really important that you're on top of the kind of attendance portion of this class. I've already said that you're expected to do your kind of in-class and out-of-class work. Again, watching lectures, engaging in discussions is classroom content, readings and responses is the homework content. The academic integrity standards are the same for all classes across the college. Do not lie, cheat, and steal. Do not plagiarize. There's several levels on which that can occur. I have not experienced people kind of deliberately plagiarizing, but I have had quotes from a text copied and pasted into a response in various forms without attribution, and that is incidental plagiarism. If I think that it's unintentional, then you'll be called out on it and we will have to correct it. Anything that seems intentional is obviously problematic. We will build an inclusive learning environment where diverse perspectives are recognized, respected, seen as a source of strength. This is a group activity. Again, we are a very disjointed group, but we will come together as a group, and your input is really necessary. Different voices are what makes City Tech, and hearing your personal perspectives on some of the things that we read is really critical. It's something that I'm kind of like a little worried about. You don't need me to tell you all the things that we can take away from these. Sometimes the more interesting perspective comes from you and from all the different voices that are out there. It's really important that we foster that and we find ways to do it even though we're not in the same room at the same time. We have a strange kind of cutoff piece here. It's the same as the etiquette, online etiquette guide for CUNY. So the link will give you all the details that you need to follow. Okay, we're coming up on the course schedule now, and there's some really important points to make here. One, as I already said, we're going to follow a weekly schedule. You see that each week is defined by the full week. So we start with Monday and we end on a Sunday. I will always make sure content is presented to you, is posted to the Open Lab site on Mondays. Sometimes it might be late in the afternoon on Mondays, but know that it will be there on Mondays. If you don't see it Tuesday morning, email me, find out what's going on. But you will see it every Monday. I will try to get it to you during the weekend, but some days it's going to be on Monday, and that's going to be how it works. You should respond to everything that week by Sunday. So you have the sort of full week. It kind of makes like the class day Monday if you want to think about it, but again, you can engage with the lectures and with the posted material anytime throughout the week, okay? As you look through this schedule, you'll see that I've noted days in which the college is closed. So the second week says that it's through February 11th. I just did that because the college is closed on the 12th and 13th. If you post your work on the 13th, that is 100% fine and okay. That's totally great. It always has to be posted the week before, at midnight on Sunday before it's due, okay? So as long as it's before February 14th, that's totally great. That's totally cool. Excellent. It's not late at all. Okay. I will also post a weekly checklist. You'll see more of this in the sort of Open Lab setup video. There will be a weekly checklist giving you a sort of rundown of everything that's due for the week. So it'll say, watch the syllabus reading, watch the lecture for that week, comment on that lecture, read this, respond here. There will be, and each one will link you to the post in which you'll do that, okay? So I'm gonna make sure that it's very structured and you can see exactly what is due for each week. Know that you'll start sometime around that Monday and have it all completed by that Sunday, okay? All of the readings are listed here and not a whole lot more, but you get a sense of some of the things that we'll cover. We start with a kind of overview of the course. We veer off and talk about some linguistics related ideas to start with, because again, language and representation are all intertwined. And then we go back to early graphic design, okay? Again, we have these weeks where it's noted that the college is closed, but again, I will try to post everything on February 21st of that week, okay? So we look at early graphic design. In response to those first few readings, you'll have that paper due on week 6. And I'll give you many more details about that as we come closer. We continue sort of with more or less following the trajectory of the history of graphic design. And then around week 8, around the midterm, we sort of veer off and look at some different types of essays, different types of articles having to do with media and representation and the meaning of images in the media. All of this culminates in week 11, where we have another longer paper due. And then our recess, we're just following the spring recess for the class, for the college, from the 15th through the 22nd. Only, sort of like 1 or 2 more topics to cover after the spring recess. Week 13 involves a lecture and some of the normal discussion, but then we break into those presentations, and they'll be due over the course of a couple weeks, so everybody has ample time to watch all of the presentations. Okay, so that's the rundown for everything that we'll do in the course. Again, this is all on the Open Lab site. Please, if you have any questions about this syllabus or any introductory materials, I'll be posting an Open Lab demo video, but if you have any questions about working with Open Lab or how to sign up for the course, please, you can email me. You can post a comment on the syllabus page, or you can post a comment on the post with this video. Okay, looking forward to seeing everybody's introduction videos and looking forward to a great semester. Thanks.